Back with Taylor Bradford of the Gloucester Daily Times to get caught up on all the things happening around the community, and it is a lot. How are you, Taylor?
I'm doing well. Yeah, and there's been a lot of buzz here in the city, and it's not just politics. Mosquitoes,
Wow.
Nice.
We're
Nice.
starting off hot today. Yep.
mosquitoes, guys. Mosquitoes are such a big ticket conversation, not only in Gloucester but around the state, as the Massachusetts has kind of rolled out this fact that they're going to be giving communities the opportunity to opt out of this new program that would allow the state to kind of take control of the mosquito mitigation plan or management plan in the Commonwealth. And so instead of being an opt-in program where people who'd want to opt into this new program where they would do aerial spraying in different communities that they deem to be, high risk, or, a couple of years ago we saw the Triple E fire spike, where they might see the high risk or critical conditions. But a lot of communities are pushing back and saying we'd rather it to be an opt-in program rather than be an opt-out program, because a lot of these communities didn't know about this program being set in. And if they hadn't known by the deadline, then they would have been stuck with the state's program. And so actually Patty Page, a Gloucester resident, kind of raised her voice and let Gloucester and the other surrounding Cape Ann communities know that the deadline was coming up to opt out of this program. And since she did and kind of gave some insight into not only the critical ways in which it would take responsibility off the communities, which, communities want to be able to control their cities as they know best. And then also what it would do to damage actually lobster. She said that the pesticides being used in the program are actually really harmful for the fishing industry. And there's evidence in New York City and other places around. And so earlier this week, the Gloucester City Council applied or voted to apply to opt out of the program, saying that kind of the best way in which for them to go about it is to just do education and information and letting people know. And they have 4 different kind of tiers, from the basic mosquitoes aren't a problem right now, kind of just having those generic comments and thoughts and suggestions on the website, to kind of that critical condition, which is, parks and open spaces closed for a while as they try to manage the mosquito population in the community. And so that's kind of their plan and what they're hoping to. Now they've applied and they've taken a lot of input, and this whole plan was drafted by the Board of Health and Health Department. And so now that they've applied, now they just wait and try to wait and hear what the state has to say. Now the state is going to decide whether or not they're going to accept their alternative plan that so since they're opting out of the program. So they have until the end of May to apply, and they've already finished and they're done with that. But now it's just kind of sitting and waiting. And if the state approves the alternative plan, then we won't be seeing any aerial spraying in the area. And so it's quite interesting. And also I want to note, like, again, it is not just specific to Gloucester. This is a conversation that's happening all over Cape Ann. I know Rockport, Alec McMillan over in Rockport has been very vocal about this issue and trying to make sure that people know a little bit about what's been going on with the state and what the Rockport's response should be. But then we also see a lot of other places where different conversations are happening with Essex and Manchester as well. But Rockport's definitely one that I believe they're going to be having that they've had that conversation with the Board of Health, and they're going to continue to have that as they have their town meeting coming up soon.
So as you sort of laid out, Taylor, it's not just a matter of if a town decides to opt out of this program, checking a box. They have to prepare an entire alternative plan to the state. So Rockport, and that's what Gloucester's been working on. And I assume Rockport's been trying to do the same thing?
Yeah, so Rockport and Essex are also no spray zones. And so Rockport, not so much, I don't know so much about Essex, but I know that Rockport has been trying to figure out what their kind of response would be. And my guess, again, I think this is something that we're going to continue to follow as we go into the summer months, is, what those alternative plans are, and are the communities working together in this conversation? Because this is one thing where a lot of people were sideswiped by this and didn't know that this kind of new state program was rolling out. And so what better way is which to kind of communicate and collaborate to make things the way in which these communities want to see it. So we'll just have to wait and see, especially as they start to hear back from the state and kind of how Rockport goes forward.
Yeah, and again, this program was created last summer in the middle of COVID when people were worried about a lot of other things. So it's no surprise that the towns and cities have been sideswiped.
Mhm.
Taylor, another big topic is the state of the hospitality industry locally.
Yeah, so this has been such an interesting conversation because um, the during the pandemic, industries, companies, businesses shut down, hoping to be a temporary closure, and we're starting to see a lot of businesses not coming back. But as we enter into the summer months, especially here in Gloucester, where we have such a thriving tourism community, is a lot of hospitality businesses are thriving. They're doing incredibly well. They're having a ton of people come and want to book places to stay, to eat, to have venues, within the allowable social distance gathering limits that the state's put on. But the problem that these businesses are finding is that while their businesses are thriving, they don't have enough staff to fill in the positions to kind of work the front desk, to do all the work that they're seeing. I spoke with Ken Reel, the CEO of the Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce, the other day, and he had mentioned how some of these businesses are actually having their owners coming in and working, in the kitchen because they don't have anybody to fill those roles. And the question is, though, why is that the case? I think a lot of times you look at a situation, you try to understand, okay, why aren't these positions being filled? And he said, to be honest, it is the wages aren't high enough for people to want to come back to work. Unemployment is maybe a better option for them. Financially, maybe they're getting unemployment, or they just have been in the ruts and they need a job that pays better to get them out of that rut faster. And so that's kind of been the conversation here in Gloucester and in the Cape Ann communities. But it's not just here in Cape Ann. Cape Cod also announced that they're having similar issues. But what was interesting to know about Cape Cod situation, and that it was a problem to do with visas. There's delays in immigration paperwork and flight restrictions for seasonal workers due to the pandemic. And because of that, a lot of people who would be in the community weren't in the community because of these kind of limitations or things that are slowing down the process. And Ken had mentioned that, they don't have as many visa workers here in the community as, say, Cape Cod, but it still is an issue. And as we look to see, what businesses stay around this summer, I think we'll definitely see a lot of help wanted signs here in the community.
Interesting. Okay, and lastly, Taylor, the city is working on a new plan for open spaces.
Yeah, so I mean, this isn't new news in the sense of it's not a novel idea. The city has to every 10 years provide an open space and recreation plan to outline kind of what they're going to be doing to outline and archive all the different open spaces here in Gloucester. This allows the city to apply for state grants through the state's Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs to acquire and improve land for conservation and recreation. So it's huge, I think, in a lot of ways. People see this and they can kind of get a list of all the different parks and open spaces that are out here, but it also provides the city with this great opportunity to be able to make places that are greener better, make them more accessible, make them, update those that maybe have been in shambles for a little bit, or put in conservation restrictions for places that really need to be protected and reserved. And so this is something that the last one that they did was in 2010. And so now they're kind of looking back and working with the state to kind of see what might be the next steps and how can we really update this plan for 2021, this year, in the next 7 years of Gloucester community. Because Gloucester, while some of the things here in Gloucester are timeless, it is also an ever-changing community, and that includes open spaces and the people that live within those places. And so they had a meeting, an open forum earlier in the month, and they're going to be having an additional one come later this month as well. And a link to that is on our website and on the city's website. And so if you guys want to kind of touch base there, I will give you guys some numbers though. As in my reporting, I found these numbers and I thought that they were fascinating. If for anyone who's interested in open space and thinking about, being protected or not protected land here in the city. So of the 6,391 acres of open space in Gloucester, 63% is owned by the city, while conservation organizations hold about 26% of the land. And we have, others are owned by private, state, or unknown entities. But of that total acreage, 86% is protected and 8% is under limited protection and 4% has no protection. So I know that we cover a lot of, development. We cover a lot of Article 97 and looking at what is protected, what isn't protected. And it's really fascinating to think about just the expanse of it, of what is protected and how does the city engage in that. So I'm sure we'll have a lot more conversations about this, whether it's related to the plan or other community news that's coming up. But there's more on our website in regards to this article, and a really cool link to a really cool map that I suggest everyone to check out if you guys want to get an aerial view of the community that we know as Cape Ann.
Great stuff, Taylor. We'll check in with you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.